At first, it looked like nothing more than a royal entrance, the kind of carefully choreographed moment that happens at state banquets all the time. But when Catherine, Princess of Wales, stepped into Windsor Castle wearing one of the most emotionally significant tiaras in royal history, something changed in the room almost instantly. Cameras shifted, conversations paused, and then there was Queen Camilla's reaction, a brief expression that lasted only seconds, yet sparked days of debate. The question wasn't simply what Queen Camilla saw. The question was what that moment revealed about the changing balance of influence inside the royal family. What made the scene so fascinating was not the diamonds, the gowns, or even the grandeur of Windsor Castle itself. The deeper story was hidden beneath the symbolism. July 2025 was supposed to be a celebration of diplomacy, a state banquet honoring France and showcasing the strength of the British monarchy. Yet before a single speech became headline news, attention had already settled elsewhere. The public was waiting for one person, and one person only, Catherine, Princess of Wales. After months of health challenges that had forced Catherine away from public life, anticipation surrounding the Princess of Wales had reached extraordinary levels. Royal watchers, journalists, and supporters across Britain, the United States, Canada, and beyond were eager to see how Catherine would return to public duty. Would Catherine, Princess of Wales, appear weakened by everything she had endured? Would the future queen seem hesitant under the spotlight? Or would Catherine return stronger than ever? Those questions followed Catherine into Windsor Castle that evening, but something else entered the room alongside her. History. The tiara resting on Catherine's head was not simply another piece from the royal collection. The lover's knot tiara carries a legacy unlike almost any other jewel owned by the monarchy. Created for Queen Mary in 1913, passed through generations, and forever linked in public memory to Diana, Princess of Wales, the tiara represents far more than status. It represents continuity. It represents memory. It represents the women who have shaped the monarchy across generations. And that is where this story becomes much more complicated. Because when Catherine, Princess of Wales, chooses to wear the lover's knot tiara, Catherine is not simply selecting jewelry. Catherine is selecting symbolism. Every appearance involving that tiara immediately invites comparisons to Diana. Every photograph reminds people of one of the most beloved figures in modern royal history. Every public appearance reconnects the monarchy's future with a chapter of its past that remains deeply emotional for millions of people. So imagine the scene. King Charles III is seated. Queen Camilla is seated beside him. Diplomats, ambassadors, ministers, and foreign dignitaries fill the room. The atmosphere is formal, elegant, and carefully managed. Then Catherine enters wearing a crimson gown paired with the lover's knot tiara, and suddenly the conversation changes. Did Queen Camilla immediately recognize what that image would mean to the public? Many observers believe so. After all, few people understand the power of royal symbolism better than Queen Camilla. Queen Camilla has spent decades navigating public scrutiny unlike almost anyone else within the royal family. Queen Camilla understands how a single photograph can dominate headlines. Queen Camilla understands how a single image can shape public perception for weeks. And perhaps that explains why so many viewers became fascinated by that brief expression captured on camera. Some royal commentators interpreted Queen Camilla's reaction as admiration. They argue that Queen Camilla may simply have been watching a woman who had endured a serious health battle return to public life with dignity, confidence, and grace. Viewed through that lens, the moment becomes one of respect rather than rivalry. Yet others saw something different. Those viewers pointed out that the room's attention appeared to shift almost immediately toward Catherine, Princess of Wales. Although Queen Camilla held the highest female rank in the monarchy, cameras seemed drawn toward the future queen. Journalists focused on Catherine. Social media focused on Catherine. International headlines focused on Catherine. If you had been sitting inside that room, would you have looked first at Queen Camilla, or would your eyes have followed Catherine, Princess of Wales, as she entered? That question matters because influence inside royal institutions is not always measured through titles alone. Sometimes influence is measured through attention. Sometimes influence is measured through public affection. Sometimes influence is measured through the simple reality that when one person enters a room, every conversation suddenly begins revolving around them. And this is where the larger story starts to emerge. Throughout 2025, Catherine, Princess of Wales, was not merely returning to public engagements. Catherine was quietly re-establishing a central role within the monarchy's public image. Several major appearances placed Catherine at the heart of significant state occasions. Each appearance appeared carefully considered. Each appearance reinforced continuity. Each appearance reminded the public that the Princess of Wales remained a critical part of the monarchy's future. Meanwhile, Prince William, the future king, remained closely associated with that public narrative. Together, Prince William and Catherine projected stability during a period when the royal family continued facing significant challenges, including ongoing public discussions surrounding Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. The contrast was difficult to ignore. While Prince Harry and Meghan Markle continued building a life outside the institution, Prince William and Catherine increasingly came to represent continuity within it. While debates about the future of the monarchy continued, many members of the public appeared to view Catherine as a reassuring symbol of stability. And perhaps that is why one glance became such a major story. Because the viral moment was never really about a facial expression. The viral moment was about what that expression seemed to symbolize. Was Queen Camilla simply admiring Catherine's remarkable return? Was Queen Camilla reflecting on Diana's enduring influence over public imagination? Or was Queen Camilla witnessing something else entirely? A subtle reminder that the future of the monarchy was already beginning to command the room? Those questions would only become more intriguing as Catherine's role continued expanding over the months that followed. And what happened next would convince many royal observers that this banquet was not an isolated moment at all, but the beginning of a much larger shift taking place inside the royal family. Before we continue, if you're enjoying this deep dive into the royal family, Prince William, Catherine, Princess of Wales, King Charles III, Prince Harry, and Meghan Markle, take a moment to subscribe and join our growing community. Because the developments that followed this remarkable Windsor Castle appearance raised even bigger questions about influence, legacy, and the future direction of the monarchy. And that's where the story becomes truly fascinating. If the viral moment at Windsor Castle was the spark that captured public attention, what happened afterward may explain why so many royal observers continue discussing that evening months later. Because once the photographs were published, once the video clips circulated across social media, and once commentators began analyzing Queen Camilla's expression frame by frame, a much larger question emerged. Was the public witnessing a simple emotional reaction, or was the public witnessing evidence of a gradual transfer of influence that had been unfolding inside the monarchy for years? The reason that question became so powerful is because influence inside the royal family rarely arrives with announcements. Buckingham Palace does not release statements declaring that one royal figure has become more significant than another. Kensington Palace does not hold press conferences explaining who currently commands the greatest public affection. Instead, these changes reveal themselves through patterns, through symbolism, through public engagement, and through subtle moments that only become obvious when viewed in hindsight. And when many royal commentators looked back at 2025, a pattern began to emerge. Catherine, Princess of Wales, was not simply attending royal engagements again. Catherine, Princess of Wales, was becoming the focal point of some of the monarchy's most important public events. State visits, diplomatic receptions, ceremonial occasions, and international coverage increasingly seemed to revolve around Kate Middleton's presence. The significance of that shift becomes even more remarkable when viewed against the backdrop of everything Catherine had endured during the previous year. After all, public sympathy alone does not create lasting influence. History is filled with public figures who briefly receive sympathy before fading from public attention. Yet Catherine, Princess of Wales, appeared to experience the opposite effect. Instead of generating temporary goodwill, Catherine's health battles seemed to deepen the connection between Catherine and the public. Supporters who had admired Catherine before now viewed Catherine through a different lens, one that combined admiration with genuine emotional investment. But here is where the story becomes especially interesting. While Catherine, Princess of Wales, was rebuilding public visibility, King Charles III was simultaneously navigating a period of enormous responsibility and scrutiny. Questions surrounding King Charles III's health, the future structure of the monarchy, and the long-term direction of the institution created an environment where discussions about succession naturally became more prominent. And whenever conversations turn toward the future of the monarchy, attention inevitably shifts toward Prince William, the future king. Yet Prince William's position cannot be viewed separately from Catherine, Princess of Wales. For years, royal analysts have argued that Prince William and Catherine operate not merely as individual royals, but as a partnership. The strength of Prince William's public image is often reinforced by Catherine's popularity, while Catherine's influence is strengthened by Prince William's constitutional role. Together, Prince William and Catherine represent the next chapter of the royal family. Could that be why so many cameras seem drawn toward Catherine during those state occasions? Could photographers, journalists, and even diplomats instinctively recognize where the monarchy's future is heading? Those questions became even more difficult to ignore as Catherine continued appearing at increasingly prominent events. What makes this development particularly fascinating is that Catherine, Princess of Wales, has never pursued attention in the way modern celebrities often do. Unlike public figures who constantly seek headlines, Catherine has built influence through restraint. Catherine rarely gives dramatic interviews. Catherine rarely comments on controversy. Catherine rarely inserts herself into public disputes. In fact, during one of the most turbulent periods in recent royal history, involving Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, the Duchess of Sussex, Catherine remained remarkably silent. That silence may have been one of Catherine's most effective decisions. While Prince Harry's memoir generated headlines around the world, while television interviews fueled endless debate, and while commentators dissected every new revelation involving Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, Catherine largely avoided participating in the public conversation. Instead, Catherine focused on family, recovery, and royal duties. Some royal watchers believe that approach significantly strengthened Catherine's reputation. Why? Because institutions often value stability more than visibility. The monarchy survives through continuity. The monarchy survives through discipline. The monarchy survives through carefully maintained public confidence. And in the eyes of many supporters, Catherine increasingly came to embody those qualities. Yet another layer of the story involves Queen Camilla herself. One of the biggest misconceptions surrounding discussions about Queen Camilla and Catherine, Princess of Wales, is the assumption that every comparison must automatically involve rivalry. Reality is usually far more complex than that. Queen Camilla's journey into public acceptance remains one of the most remarkable transformations in modern royal history. There was a time when many believed Queen Camilla would never achieve widespread public respect. The controversy surrounding King Charles III and Princess Diana seemed impossible to overcome. Public hostility was intense. Criticism was relentless. Yet through years of consistent public service, charitable work, and unwavering support of King Charles III, Queen Camilla gradually changed perceptions. That transformation required patience. That transformation required endurance. That transformation required decades. Catherine's journey, however, followed a completely different path. From the moment Catherine appeared alongside Prince William, public affection arrived almost immediately. The public embraced Kate Middleton as the future Princess of Wales long before Catherine officially carried that title. And over time, Catherine justified those expectations through professionalism, dedication, and composure. So when Queen Camilla and Catherine, Princess of Wales, appear together, the public often sees more than two royal women. The public sees two completely different royal journeys. Queen Camilla represents acceptance earned through persistence. Catherine, Princess of Wales, represents expectation fulfilled through performance. And that contrast creates a fascinating dynamic that cameras naturally gravitate toward. But another question soon emerged. If Catherine's influence was growing so noticeably, what did that mean for the future balance of visibility inside the royal family? Because visibility matters. Public affection matters. Symbolism matters. And perhaps nowhere was that more evident than in Catherine's use of royal jewelry. Many observers focused exclusively on the lover's knot tiara, yet Catherine's broader approach to royal symbolism tells an even more revealing story. Each significant tiara appearance seemed connected to a specific narrative. Each appearance appeared carefully aligned with continuity, heritage, and institutional stability. Coincidence? Perhaps, but royal households rarely leave symbolism entirely to chance. Every image carries meaning. Every appearance communicates something. every detail contributes to a larger narrative. And if Catherine, Princess of Wales, was consciously helping shape that narrative, the strategy appeared remarkably effective. Because by early 2026, many reports suggested that Catherine had become one of the most trusted and admired members of the royal family anywhere in the world. Polling, media coverage, and public reactions consistently reflected strong support for Catherine. Even people who rarely followed royal news seemed interested in Catherine's return to public life. That level of public goodwill cannot simply be assigned through royal titles. That level of goodwill must be earned. And perhaps that is why the Windsor Castle moment resonated so deeply. The public was not merely watching a princess enter a banquet. The public was watching a woman many now associate with the future of the monarchy. The public was watching someone who had faced extraordinary personal challenges and returned with remarkable composure. The public was watching Catherine, Princess of Wales, step back into a role that many believe will define the next era of the royal family. But if Catherine's growing influence explains part of Queen Camilla's viral reaction, another mystery remains unsolved. Because several royal observers began noticing subtle developments behind palace walls that rarely appeared in official statements, developments involving shifting alliances, changing priorities, and the increasingly important role of Prince William within the monarchy's long-term strategy. And once Prince William's position enters the conversation, the story becomes even more complicated than most people realize. Before we continue, if you're enjoying this deep dive into King Charles III, Queen Camilla, Prince William, Catherine, Princess of Wales, Prince Harry, Meghan Markle, and the future of the royal family, make sure to subscribe and join the conversation below. Because the developments surrounding Prince William's growing role and what palace insiders reportedly noticed during this period may reveal why that seemingly brief Windsor Castle moment carried far more significance than anyone first realized. But if Catherine, Princess of Wales, was becoming the public face of continuity, another question was quietly taking shape behind the scenes, and it may be the most important question of all. What role was Prince William, the future king, playing in this transformation? Because while much of the public discussion focused on Catherine's remarkable return, royal observers were beginning to notice something else entirely. Prince William and Catherine were no longer being viewed simply as the next generation of royals. Increasingly, Prince William and Catherine were being viewed as the operational center of the monarchy's future. That distinction matters more than many people realize. For decades, the royal family has survived by carefully balancing the present with the future. Every reigning monarch must maintain authority while simultaneously preparing the next generation to inherit responsibility. Yet that process becomes especially delicate when public attention starts moving ahead of the official timeline. And that is precisely why the Windsor Castle moment may have resonated so strongly with people across the world. Because when Catherine, Princess of Wales, entered that room wearing the lover's not tiara, many viewers were not seeing the wife of Prince William. Many viewers were seeing a future queen. Think about that for a moment. How often does public perception begin assigning a role before history officially reaches that point? How often does a nation begin emotionally investing in a future chapter before the current chapter has even concluded? Those questions sit at the heart of the story because they help explain why a single glance from Queen Camilla became such a subject of fascination. The reality is that Catherine, Princess of Wales, occupies a uniquely powerful position within the royal family. Unlike many public figures who spend years trying to build credibility, Catherine entered royal life with enormous expectations already attached to her name. Yet what makes Catherine's story remarkable is not that expectations existed. What makes Catherine's story remarkable is that Catherine steadily fulfilled those expectations year after year. Royal historians often point out that popularity inside the monarchy can be unpredictable. Public affection rises. Public affection falls. Headlines change. Narratives shift. Yet Catherine, Princess of Wales, managed something unusual. Catherine maintained a reputation for consistency over more than a decade while navigating intense scrutiny that would have overwhelmed many public figures. And perhaps that consistency explains why Prince William increasingly appears comfortable placing Catherine at the center of major royal occasions. After all, Prince William, the future king, understands the pressures attached to the crown better than almost anyone alive. Prince William grew up watching King Charles III navigate public expectations. Prince William witnessed firsthand the extraordinary public response to Diana, Princess of Wales. Prince William understands the opportunities and dangers that accompany public affection. So when Prince William and Catherine appear together at state occasions, there is often a sense that both individuals understand exactly what is being communicated without needing to say a single word. And that brings us to another fascinating development. As Catherine, Princess of Wales, resumed public engagements, observers began noting how naturally international attention gravitated toward Catherine. Ambassadors wanted introductions. Foreign media requested photographs. Diplomatic coverage frequently highlighted Catherine alongside Prince William. Even when events were technically focused on state business, discussions often drifted toward Catherine's presence. Was this merely a reflection of public curiosity following Catherine's health battle? Possibly. Yet some royal commentators believe something deeper was taking place. Those commentators argue that Catherine represents a bridge between multiple eras of royal history. Catherine carries echoes of Diana's public warmth while simultaneously embodying the discipline associated with Queen Elizabeth II. Catherine presents modernity without appearing rebellious. Catherine projects tradition without appearing outdated. In an age when institutions constantly struggle to remain relevant, that balance is extraordinarily valuable. And if that analysis is correct, another intriguing question emerges. Could Catherine, Princess of Wales, be becoming one of the monarchy's most important strategic assets? The evidence certainly points in that direction. During periods of uncertainty, institutions often elevate figures who inspire confidence. During periods of transition, institutions often rely on individuals capable of uniting different audiences. And throughout recent years, Catherine repeatedly demonstrated an ability to connect with people across generations, political viewpoints, and social backgrounds. That kind of influence cannot be manufactured through press releases. That kind of influence develops gradually through trust. And trust may ultimately be the most valuable currency the monarchy possesses. Yet the story becomes even more layered when Prince Harry and Meghan Markle enter the wider conversation. Because no discussion about the modern royal family can completely avoid the impact of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's departure from royal duties. The ongoing distance between Prince William and Prince Harry continues shaping public perceptions of the monarchy. Every major royal event inevitably raises questions about family relationships, reconciliation, and the long-term consequences of one of the most dramatic royal divisions in recent memory. Interestingly, Catherine, Princess of Wales, occupies a unique position within that narrative as well. Before tensions escalated publicly, Catherine was often described as one of the few figures capable of maintaining positive relationships across different parts of the family. Reports and commentary frequently suggested that Catherine preferred stability over confrontation and diplomacy over public disagreement. Whether those descriptions are entirely accurate remains impossible to verify, but they contributed to Catherine's public image as a calming presence during turbulent times. Now consider how that perception intersects with Catherine's return to public life. At a moment when Prince Harry and Meghan Markle remained largely outside the institutional structure of the monarchy, Catherine was stepping confidently back into its center. At a moment when questions about royal unity continued dominating headlines, Catherine represented continuity. At a moment when uncertainty surrounded several aspects of the monarchy's future, Catherine projected reassurance. Can you begin to see why so many people interpreted the Windsor Castle moment as something larger than a reaction to a tiara? Because symbols rarely operate in isolation. The lover's knot tiara symbolized history. Catherine's return symbolized resilience. Prince William's presence symbolized succession. And together, those elements created a narrative far more powerful than any official statement Buckingham Palace could have released. Yet perhaps the most revealing aspect of all involves Queen Camilla herself. Despite endless speculation, there is very little evidence suggesting open conflict between Queen Camilla and Catherine, Princess of Wales. In fact, public appearances often project professionalism and mutual respect. However, professional respect does not eliminate awareness of changing realities. Every experienced public figure understands when attention is shifting. Every experienced leader recognizes emerging centers of influence. Every experienced royal understands that public affection often shapes institutional strength. That does not automatically create rivalry, but it does create awareness. And awareness can sometimes reveal itself through the smallest moments. A glance, a pause, a brief expression captured by a camera lens. Those fleeting moments become fascinating because they invite viewers to project larger questions onto them. Was Queen Camilla recognizing Catherine's remarkable recovery? Was Queen Camilla acknowledging the enduring emotional power of Diana's legacy? Was Queen Camilla observing the growing prominence of the future queen? Or was Queen Camilla experiencing all of those thoughts simultaneously? The answer may never be known. And perhaps that uncertainty is exactly why the story continues captivating audiences. Because the monarchy has always thrived on mystery as much as visibility. Official ceremonies reveal one part of the story. Symbolism reveals another part. Public reactions reveal yet another. The full picture often emerges only when those different layers are viewed together. And as royal observers continued examining the aftermath of the Windsor Castle banquet, attention began turning toward an even bigger question, one involving not simply Catherine, Princess of Wales, or Queen Camilla, but the long-term future of King Charles III's reign itself. Because behind the photographs, behind the jewelry, and behind the viral clips, subtle developments were beginning to reshape how many people viewed the next era of the monarchy. And once those developments became impossible to ignore, the conversation shifted from one banquet to something much larger, whether the future of the royal family was arriving faster than anyone expected. Before we continue, if you're enjoying this deep dive into King Charles III, Queen Camilla, Prince William, Catherine, Princess of Wales, Prince Harry, Meghan Markle, and the evolving future of the monarchy, be sure to subscribe and join our community. The next part of this story explores how changing public perceptions, shifting royal responsibilities, and the growing visibility of Prince William and Catherine may be quietly redefining the balance of influence inside the royal family in ways few people anticipated. But if the Windsor Castle banquet revealed how much public attention now surrounds Catherine, Princess of Wales, the developments that followed raised an even larger question, one that reaches far beyond a single evening, a single tiara, or even a single royal relationship. What happens when public perception begins accelerating faster than the monarchy's official timeline? Because the more royal observers examined the months following Catherine's return, the more many began to notice a subtle but unmistakable reality. The conversation was no longer centered solely on King Charles III's reign. Increasingly, the conversation was drifting toward what comes next. That shift may sound insignificant at first, but throughout royal history, it has often signaled something important. Monarchies survive through continuity, yet continuity depends on public confidence in the future. Citizens need to believe that the next chapter is ready before the current chapter concludes. And in recent years, Prince William, the future king, and Catherine, Princess of Wales, have increasingly become the embodiment of that future in the public imagination. What makes this particularly fascinating is that neither Prince William nor Catherine appears eager to rush the process. In fact, one reason many supporters admire Prince William and Catherine is because both figures seem deeply aware of institutional responsibility. Rather than positioning themselves as replacements for King Charles III, Prince William and Catherine have consistently presented themselves as supporters of the current reign. Yet despite those efforts, public attention often follows its own path. Consider the extraordinary reaction whenever Catherine, Princess of Wales, appears at a major royal event. Headlines emerge within minutes. Photographs circulate globally. Fashion analysts discuss Catherine's wardrobe choices. Royal commentators analyze Catherine's interactions. International broadcasters feature Catherine prominently in coverage packages. Now compare that level of attention to what normally happens during traditional state functions. Diplomatic events are typically designed to emphasize governments, international relationships, and national interests. Yet somehow, Catherine repeatedly becomes one of the defining stories. Why does that happen? Why does Catherine, Princess of Wales, continue attracting such remarkable levels of attention, even when the event itself is supposed to focus elsewhere? The answer may reveal something profound about modern monarchy. Unlike political leaders, royal figures derive influence from symbolism. Unlike elected officials, royal figures depend heavily upon public trust, emotional connection, and perceived legitimacy. In that environment, public affection becomes a strategic asset, and few members of the royal family currently possess as much public goodwill as Catherine, Princess of Wales. That reality creates an interesting challenge for everyone involved. King Charles III remains the reigning monarch. Queen Camilla remains the queen. Their constitutional roles are clear and established. Yet public curiosity increasingly revolves around Prince William and Catherine. The institution must therefore balance present authority with future expectations without allowing one to overshadow the other. Have you ever noticed how difficult that balancing act must be? Imagine leading an institution where every appearance, every photograph, and every public reaction is examined for clues about succession, influence, and future leadership. Imagine knowing that a simple interaction between Queen Camilla and Catherine, Princess of Wales, can generate days of international discussion. Suddenly, that Windsor Castle moment begins to look less like an isolated incident and more like part of a much larger story. And that larger story becomes even more intriguing when viewed through the lens of public sentiment. For years, surveys and public commentary have consistently suggested strong support for Prince William and Catherine. While every poll should be interpreted carefully, the broader pattern has remained relatively stable. Many members of the public view Prince William as a serious and responsible future monarch. Many members of the public view Catherine as a reassuring and capable future queen. Together, Prince William and Catherine represent something the monarchy values enormously: predictability. Predictability may not sound exciting, but for institutions built around stability, predictability is priceless. And this is where another fascinating contrast begins to emerge. Throughout modern royal history, some figures have generated attention through controversy, conflict, or unpredictability. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, the Duchess of Sussex, often found themselves at the center of intense media discussion because of disputes, revelations, and dramatic developments. Whether supporters agreed or disagreed with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, there was never any shortage of headlines. Prince William and Catherine, by contrast, have generally generated attention through consistency. That difference matters, because while controversy can create short-term visibility, consistency often creates long-term trust. Could that be one reason why Catherine's return felt so significant to so many people? After months of uncertainty regarding Catherine's health, supporters were not simply celebrating a public appearance. Supporters were celebrating the return of a figure many had come to view as an essential part of the monarchy's future. The emotional response was therefore about much more than a banquet. And perhaps Queen Camilla understood that better than anyone. After all, Queen Camilla's own journey demonstrates how deeply public perception shapes royal life. Queen Camilla spent years navigating criticism, skepticism, and resistance before gradually earning broader acceptance. Few individuals understand the importance of public opinion more clearly than Queen Camilla. That reality makes the viral reaction even more compelling. Because if Queen Camilla recognized the extraordinary public connection surrounding Catherine, Princess of Wales, Queen Camilla may also have recognized what that connection means for the monarchy moving forward. Not because Queen Camilla would necessarily view that development negatively. Not because Queen Camilla would necessarily feel threatened. But because Queen Camilla, like every experienced royal figure, understands the significance of public momentum. Momentum can quietly reshape narratives. Momentum can influence media coverage. Momentum can affect expectations. And momentum often becomes visible before official structures acknowledge it. That idea brings us back to the symbolism of the lovers, not Tiara. Most discussions focused on Diana, Princess of Wales, and understandably so. The association is impossible to ignore. Yet another layer deserves attention as well. By wearing the tiara during such a significant return to public duty, Catherine, Princess of Wales, effectively connected several generations of royal history into a single image. Queen Mary, Queen Elizabeth II, Diana, Princess of Wales, Catherine, Princess of Wales. The visual message was powerful because it reinforced continuity rather than disruption. And continuity is precisely what the monarchy seeks to project during periods of uncertainty. But another question soon emerged. What if the public was seeing more than continuity? What if the public was witnessing the gradual emergence of the next defining royal era? That possibility explains why conversations continued long after the banquet ended. People were not debating jewelry. People were not debating fashion. people were debating the future. Who will define the monarchy's next chapter? Who will command public attention in the years ahead? Who will carry forward the legacy of the institution during an increasingly unpredictable era? For many observers, the answer increasingly points toward Prince William and Catherine. Yet that conclusion raises another fascinating issue. If Prince William and Catherine are becoming the primary symbols of the monarchy's future, how does the royal family manage that transition while maintaining support for King Charles III's reign in the present? That question may ultimately prove more important than any discussion about Queen Camilla's expression. Because successful monarchies are not judged solely by individual popularity. Successful monarchies are judged by their ability to transfer trust from one generation to the next without creating instability. And judging by recent developments, that transfer may already be happening more visibly than many people realize. Before we continue, make sure you're subscribed and part of the conversation, because the final chapter of this story explores perhaps the most surprising possibility of all. What if the viral Windsor Castle moment was never really about Queen Camilla or Catherine, Princess of Wales, individually? What if that brief exchange captured something much larger, the exact moment millions of people began recognizing that the future of the royal family was no longer approaching from a distance, but quietly arriving in real time? But perhaps the most remarkable aspect of this entire story is that nobody inside Windsor Castle actually said anything dramatic. There was no public disagreement. There was no confrontation. There was no official statement from Buckingham Palace explaining what happened. And yet, months later, people were still discussing that brief moment because the most powerful royal stories are often the ones told through symbolism rather than words. When Catherine, Princess of Wales, walked into that banquet wearing the lover's not tiara, the public saw far more than a royal appearance. The public saw resilience. The public saw continuity. The public saw a woman returning to duty after one of the most difficult periods of her life. And whether intended or not, the image created a narrative that extended far beyond the walls of Windsor Castle. But here's the question that continues to fascinate royal observers. Would that moment have generated the same reaction if Catherine, Princess of Wales, had worn a different tiara? Would the footage have gone viral if the jewelry had not been so closely associated with Diana, Princess of Wales? Or was the emotional power of that moment created precisely because history, memory, and the future all seemed to converge in a single image? The more people examined the footage, the more those questions lingered. And perhaps that is why Queen Camilla's expression became such a talking point. Not because the reaction itself provided answers, but because the reaction encouraged people to ask larger questions about influence, legacy, and the future direction of the monarchy. A single glance became a canvas onto which millions of people projected their own interpretations. Some viewers saw admiration. Some viewers saw reflection. Some viewers saw recognition of Catherine's extraordinary recovery. Others believed Queen Camilla was witnessing something even more significant, the growing reality that Catherine, Princess of Wales, has become one of the most important figures in the royal family's future. What do you think? If you had been sitting inside that room, would you have viewed the moment as simple respect between two senior royal women, or would you have sensed something deeper taking place beneath the surface? Because one fact is difficult to ignore. The attention surrounding Catherine, Princess of Wales, continues growing. Prince William, the future king, continues preparing for responsibilities that will eventually define an era. King Charles III continues leading the institution through a period of transition. Meanwhile, discussions surrounding Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, the Duchess of Sussex, continue reminding the public that modern royal history remains as complex as ever. Against that backdrop, the Windsor Castle moment feels less like an isolated event and more like a snapshot of a monarchy navigating change in real time. And perhaps that is the real reason the story resonated so strongly. Not because Queen Camilla looked at Catherine. Not because Catherine wore Diana's famous tiara. Not because cameras happened to capture a few seconds of footage. The story resonated because it touched on something larger than any individual person. The story touched on continuity. The story touched on succession. The story touched on the timeless question every monarchy eventually faces. How does one era gradually make room for the next while preserving the dignity of the present? That question remains unanswered, and maybe it should remain unanswered for now. Because the monarchy has never been a story with neat endings. The monarchy evolves through chapters rather than conclusions. One generation steps forward, while another generation remains in place. Public attention shifts. Roles evolve. New symbols emerge. Old symbols acquire new meaning. And somewhere within that process, a single moment captured on camera becomes part of a much larger narrative. Perhaps Queen Camilla's expression really was admiration. Perhaps Queen Camilla's expression reflected memories of Diana, Princess of Wales. Perhaps Queen Camilla's expression acknowledged Catherine, Princess of Wales, as a future queen increasingly embraced by the public. Or perhaps the truth contains elements of all three interpretations at once. After all, royal life is rarely as simple as headlines make it appear. And that may be the most fascinating lesson from this entire story. Before you go, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss our deep dives into Prince William, Catherine, Princess of Wales, King Charles III, Queen Camilla, Prince Harry, Meghan Markle, and the ever-evolving story of the royal family. We explore the moments behind the headlines, the symbolism behind the photographs, and the questions that continue shaping the future of the monarchy. And now we'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you believe Queen Camilla's reaction was simply admiration for Catherine, Princess of Wales, and an inspiring return to public life? Or do you think that brief Windsor Castle moment revealed something larger about influence, legacy, and the future of the royal family? Share your perspective in the comments below, because this conversation is far from over, and as history has shown time and time again, the next chapter of the monarchy is often written long before anyone realizes it has already begun.